Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Boy oh boy is the panic setting in. They want so badly to get rid of this guy, and it's really no wonder why. It really comes down to one thing. He doesn't play by the same rules that they do. Well, Donald Trump isn't playing the establishment Washington politics game. No, of course, on the contrary. He's there as a proud political dissident.
I stand before you today not only as your past and hopefully future president, but as a proud political dissident. I am a dissident.
That's what I'm talking about, folks. And of course, they absolutely hate it. Specifically, they hate the things that he says. In other words, they hate the truth. They would much rather a Lindsey Graham or a Mitt Romney who says things like, "Joe Biden is my friend. He's an honorable man. I love Joe Biden." They would rather that than somebody actually tell the truth about who Joe Biden really is. Well, that's exactly what Donald Trump did. At his most recent rally, he went friggin' in. I've been watching Trump rallies since 2016, and this, I have to admit, was literally one of the best. The Donald has the establishment in panic mode. He's got the White House in panic mode as he exposes Joe Biden for who he truly is. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so here's the moment that has the media in a phony fact-checking frenzy.
The radical Democrat Party has waged war on black families for many, many decades. Think of it. It's really 100 years. It's a century. They've controlled these cities for 100 years. Hard to believe. I said, can't be. It is. They've controlled. And look at what. You take a look at Baltimore. You take a look at New York. You take a look at Chicago. You take a look at all of these places. Take a look at what's going on in the West Coast. Take a look at what's happening. And they've controlled these cities for 100 years. And nothing happens. They're slum areas. They're dangerous. Nothing has happened, and we're going to change it. We're going to change it. On top of everything else, Joe Biden really has proven to be a very nasty and vicious racist. He's been a racist. Whether you like it or don't like it, I happen not to like it. Most of the people in this room happen to not like it. And if somebody does like it, they're not supposed to be here. Biden spent years palling around with notorious segregationists. You know that. He boasted that his home state was a slave state. He was very proud of that. He thought it was great. If you go back and look at his body language and the way he said it, he was very proud of it. He said that he didn't want his children to grow up in a, quote, racial jungle. I don't want my children in a racial jungle. Joe Biden drafted the 1994 crime bill, which caused unfair sentencing disparities that devastated the black community, black families. Cory Booker called Biden the architect of mass incarceration. Remember this. It was a time when Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden were talking about predators and super predators. You heard that. This is a hell of a lot more of a speech than you thought you were going to get, isn't it, huh? They thought it would be boring then. We'd give a little quick boring speech, but we got it. It's called Let's Tell It Like It Is, right? And then years later, tell it like it is. Thank you very much. I just want to tell the truth. Remember Howard Cosell? I just tell it like it is. It ended up getting him fired, but these are mine. And then years later, in an act of stolen valor, Crooked Joe had the nerve to falsely portray himself as a hero of the civil rights movement, which was so false. And then he said that if African Americans didn't vote for him, you ain't black. Now that one's been so recent, I didn't even want to. But he did say that. A lot of people were surprised. He did say that. But that one's so recent, I didn't even want to put it in. We had to go back to the real stuff. But he did say that. I was a little surprised to see it. I'm sure you were, too. Unlike racist Joe Biden, I've spent my entire life working hand in hand with black Americans to create jobs, build buildings, invest in our communities, and expand opportunity and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. And we have. I built a lot of buildings, and I want to tell you, a black worker is a great worker. You've done an incredible job. They've done an incredible job. Really talented, great people. And that goes for others too. Hispanic is incredible. You know, the Hispanic numbers are then, they're through the roof.
Trump essentially tells it like it is and exposes Joe Biden for the racist that he's always been. None of what he said was really shocking at all, but the White House got real frustrated. Here's a statement from Biden-Harris 2020 from Black media director Jasmine Harris. The audacity of Donald Trump to speak to a room full of black voters during Black History Month as if he isn't the proud poster boy for modern racism. Okay there, Jasmine. This is the same man who falsely accused the Central Park Five, questioned George Floyd's humanity, compared his own impeachment trial to being lynched, and ensured the unemployment gap for black workers spiked during his presidency. Okay, so Central Park 5, give me a break. Question George Floyd's humanity? Yeah, I think I'd question his humanity too. I mean, he did point a gun at a pregnant woman's pregnant belly, compared his own impeachment trial to being lynched. Some would say that's a pretty accurate comparison, and ensured the unemployment gap for black workers spiked during his Okay. I can't even get through that statement because it's so incredibly stupid. Donald Trump, of course, ushered in historically low black unemployment during his first term in office. But anyways, Donald Trump has been showing black Americans his true colors for years. An incompetent anti-black tyrant. What are these people on? Under Biden must be bringing the Parmesan to the White House, who holds us to such low regard that he publicly dined with white nationalists a week before declaring his 2024 candidacy. What? I'm assuming they're talking about the whole Nick Fuentes thing, which, by the way, Donald Trump was dining with Kanye West, a black man who brought Nick Fuentes with him. Donald Trump wasn't even aware of who Nick Fuentes was. So again, a complete false statement. Come November, no matter how many disingenuous voter engagement events he attends, black Americans will show Donald Trump we know exactly who he is. So the White House deploys their propaganda minister to fight back against Donald Trump's claim, but there's only one problem with that. Everything they said here is total BS. None of it is proof that Donald Trump is an anti-black tyrant, whatever the hell that means. But your boss, Mrs. Jasmine Harris, Joe Biden, well, he's got quite the history now, doesn't he? Let's just put it all together, shall we?
The Nunes plan in the basement said, quote, "We already have a mayor, we don't need any more big shots." You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. I recognize that kid wearing a hoodie may very well be the next poet laureate and not a gangbanger.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Yeah, it turns out that Donald Trump actually made a decent point. He referenced the "you ain't black if you don't vote for me" thing, the 1994 crime bill, the super predators rhetoric, his support for segregation and his friendship with segregationists. He literally eulogized Robert Byrd, not to mention how Joe Biden seems to manipulate black voters by blatantly lying and casting himself as a hero of the civil rights movement. During the early days of Joe Biden's career, the guy was a freaking segregationist who said he didn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle. What that message was essentially a full-blown temper tantrum, a little meltdown, because they're scared of this.
And done a lousy job for everybody, but for black Americans, they have done a very poor job. Every day, we are welcoming more black voters back home to the Republican Party. You remember the Party of Lincoln, to help us reclaim the party of Frederick Douglass, party of Abraham Lincoln and other great people.
They're scared of the possible revival of the Party of Lincoln. That's the reality. They're scared of the rise of black Republicans.
Biggest event of the year. Looks like there is a massive support around black voters going to Donald Trump. Why is that?
The black community wants a leader who has the energy to actually go to bat for the issues that they want to fight for. And we see that in Donald Trump. We don't necessarily see that from Joe Biden.
More and more are going for the Republican Party. Why now?
I think the Biden administration has really, in the last 4 years, I was just having a conversation at the table, it's like the whole house is in shambles.
I think most black people are trying to look for something different. And a lot of us are waking up, especially black men, and we're waking up to what the Democrat Party has been doing to us for so many years.
You can see what Biden is doing right now, making promises, but in reality, nothing is changing.
President Trump is the only person that can get the job done.
But what they're truly scared of, what truly frightens them, is that their slanderous rhetoric these days seems powerless. Joe Biden, the great unifier-in-chief, recently said this. Biden says that he served with real racists, but Republicans are worse. Yeah, really unifying the country. They're scared. The Democrats are panicking because that kind of rhetoric no longer works. I think Trump said it best.
So to any black voter who's thinking of casting your ballot for us for the first time, it might be for the first time, and probably is. It's amazing. What's happened in the last 2 years is actually amazing, and it's been based on results, real results. Just remember, you owe crooked Joe Biden absolutely nothing. You don't owe him a thing, so do not feel guilty. Please do not feel guilty.
A lot of black voters are starting to realize that they don't owe the Democrat Party jack squat. Oh, it's just so based. And if it wasn't based, if it wasn't true, if it wasn't having an effect, if black voters weren't ditching the Democrats and ditching Joe Biden in droves, well then the White House probably wouldn't bother. But instead, they released this message. This absolutely vile, pathetic, dishonest, desperate message. Please don't vote for him. He's a vile racist. Please don't leave us, is essentially the synopsis of that letter. If they weren't panicking, if it wasn't true, they would have never responded in this way. And just thinking about that is just so incredibly satisfying. The Democrats are desperate, Joe Biden's horrible and has a horrible history of racism, and Donald Trump is right. In other words, just another regular day. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.